It is John from Heroes and Legends. Welcome to part 4 of our 4-part Commander 2017 upgrade series, where we're wrapping things up looking at the wizard deck Arcane Wizardry. Now, there is a playlist if you'd like to see the others. We, of course, already talked about the cat deck, the dragon deck, as well as the vampire deck, but today it's going to be all about wizards. And this video is much like the others in the series. If you watch the other ones, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on mana base because we spent a good portion of time of the dragon video talking about 5-color mana bases and such. A lot of it is kind of redundant, and I think for the most part when you start dealing with 3-color decks like this one being Grixis, the mana base is a little more self-explanatory, but I will pick out some cards that I felt like just off the top of my head might be good inclusions in this particular deck. They work well with what the deck's trying to do out of the box. Now, there's a lot of ways you could go, and this is really just a sampling of things that you could upgrade this deck with, but it's not the be-all and end-all, naturally. If you wanted to upheave a lot of the strategies in the deck, you could make some more significant changes, but these are all about enhancing what's already there. Now, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find a couple ways to support us. You'll find some links for Amazon products. Any purchases you make via the links, a small percentage will come back to us. Also, you'll find our Patreon page down there as well. With that being said, let's get into the cards. We're going to start off with some creatures. We're going to begin with a transform card, and this is maybe one of the best inclusions that you're going to see today, and it's only 39 cents. Docent of Perfection. Okay, for 5 mana, there's a lot happening here. First off, it's a 5/4 flyer. Doesn't start off or doesn't become a wizard in itself, but it does a lot for wizards. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get to put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. And then if you control 3 or more wizards, you get to transform. When this transforms, it becomes a wizard lord, basically a 6/5 flyer that gives other wizards flying in +2/+1. So that's actually pretty sweet, and you don't lose that ability to continue to make wizard tokens either. And in a lot of situations, that's going to be very good for the deck if you look at example Anala's ability. So there's going to be things you can definitely do with these tokens. Alright, let's look at some other cards. We have Archetype of Imagination, only 34 cents. And this one maybe is not crazy good, but I thought the price tag was pretty decent. It is a 3/2 human wizard, and I find it interesting that it kind of protects you from flying. Creatures your opponent control lose flying and can't have or gain flying, and your creatures get flying. I do think the fact that your opponents are losing flying is probably more important in this deck than yours gaining flying, but it could go a long ways to protect you, especially like the midpoint of the game if you need to. I found it interesting anyway for 34 cents. Patron Wizard. Okay, this one has spiked a lot over the last few weeks, and that's pretty unfortunate. Actually, a lot of the cards that we're looking at today were recently cards that have gone up in value due to the announcement of this deck and everything that has gone along with it over the last few weeks. Patron Wizard is one of those cards. I mean, this is a spikier card. If you want to play in a more spiky play group, then this is a good inclusion for you, but it is a $19 card now. Snapcaster Mage. Okay, here's the high roller card of the day, and here's what I'm going to say about it. I went with the Modern Masters 2017 version, although the original version is pretty comparable in price. $52.20, though, is a big investment just for this particular deck. Because here's the thing with Snapcaster in this deck. It's a nice support card, but it's not necessarily changing anything about the deck. It's not restructuring or making the deck all that much better. So if you already own one and you want to toss one in, then I think it's a nice inclusion, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend going out there and spending $50 on Snapcaster Mage just for this deck. Stony Brook Banneret. And this one, I think, is another real cheap but good inclusion, only 44 cents. Yes, this is a little fragile as a 1/1, but as long as it's in play, your wizard spells cost 1 less to cast. I think that's pretty sweet. Supreme Inquisitor, only 52 cents, and again, this deck is all about making wizard tokens, even in some cases, if they are temporary, like in Anala's case, it just gives you something else to do with them. Void Mage Prodigy at $4.99. This is the Time Spiral version, and yes, this card is also spiked as recently as this week, but again, being able to pay 2 blue, sacrifice a wizard to counter a spell, and it has morph on top of it, so you can surprise your opponents with it sometimes. It can be very good in this deck, obviously. Alright, let's look at a sorcery. I just picked Rite of Replication here. It's only $2.25 if you go for the Commander 2014 version that you see here, but I will say this, you kind of want to play this with a kicker, and again, it's just creating a number of tokens. If you hit something that has a good Enters Battlefield effect or a good ability on it, wonderful, but even if you didn't for some reason, now you have these extra wizards that you can tap for Anala's ability or even the Supreme Inquisitor's ability. All right, let's look at some artifacts. The first one that jumped in my head is Ashnod's Altar. It's only $2.42 if you go for the 5th edition version of the card. And this combos with a Nala and a Bloodline Necromancer to basically create a game-winning situation if your opponents can't disrupt it. It is endless mana as well as endless 3/2 life-linking creatures that can attack with haste. So, kind of like Splinter Twin combo, I guess, in that way. Yes, you can play Bloodline Necromancer. You pay the 1 for Nala's ability. You put that on the stack. You sacrifice your Necromancer, the one you just cast. You get the 2 mana to your mana pool. Then you let the token resolve. The token enters the battlefield, lets you take a card from your graveyard, put it back into play. You take the Necromancer, you put it back into play. You pay the 1 mana, you put that on the stack, and you sacrifice the Necromancer. Rinse, wash, and repeat, basically. So, yes, it does work, and that's pretty crazy. Cryptic Gateway, $3.32 for this one. And again, this is something you probably could have put in any of the tribal decks. I chose this particular one because you do have some expendable tokens that at times might not be able to do anything. They're just kind of there temporarily. So it makes sense in this deck, but it makes sense in others as well. Gem of Becoming. I mentioned I wasn't going to talk too much about mana bases here, but this one I couldn't resist. 18 cents for a card that easily lets you pick up some pieces to your Grixis base. Mirror Gallery, $12.50, another card that spiked recently, unfortunately. And it has stabilized now, but we'll have to wait and see what happens when the product actually comes out on August 25th, if that's going to affect these prices again. But what I like about this one is if you're copying some tokens with a Nala, that this lets you ignore the legend rule. Now, you can still do things without Mirror Gallery. For example, you put Arcanist Omnipotent into play, you pay the 1 to make the token, put that token on the stack, bounce Arcanist back to your hand. Now you have the token. It has haste until end of turn, so you can immediately draw 3 cards. If you have enough mana to do it again, wonderful. But even if you only did it once per turn, that's still okay. Now with Mirror Gallery, you don't even have to worry about the whole bounce effect, or at least not right away, to keep that going. So I find that actually pretty intriguing, and there's other things obviously you could do with Legends. Lastly, Sundial of the Infinite. This is okay. It's only $1.29. I was kind of debating whether I even wanted to mention it. It ends the turn without basically causing the end step to happen, at least for that turn. So it lets those tokens that were temporary stick around a little longer. All right, one land that I wanted to mention, unfortunately it's another one that has spiked recently. Riptide Laboratory is now up to $17.37. It has stabilized a little bit now, but still, this is great though. It does return target wizard you control to your hand for just a blue and 1, and tapping this, really nice utility land to have, but again, it is a little more pricey now than it was just a few weeks ago. All right, with that being said, those are the cards for today. And like I said at the top of the video, this is really all about starting the conversation. So I'd love to hear in the comments below your thoughts on cards you would include for this particular deck, or any strategies that you would think would enhance it. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.